Getting into a market pump today, we'll of course break it down for you, take a look at a handful of tokens, and of course you guys don't want to miss it. There's a lot of things happening right now in crypto. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into Tech Path. I want to thank our sponsor, and that is Coinbase. If you guys are looking at going long-term into crypto, well, you're going to need an exchange. And this is one of the places that you guys can go. So just go over to coinbase.com. Whether you're a company or an individual, you can use our link. It's going to give you $200 in crypto. Get started, get out there and do it. A couple of things I want to get into today, of course, is as we near the FOMC meeting, which is happening tomorrow, Bitcoin's breaking 75K. And as we are talking, we're starting to bump closer to 76. But this is the first time in history. What a great time. I agree with GR Dector there. She is right, Genevieve. A couple other things I want to hit into, and that is Kobe. They kind of hit on a couple of points here. Markets are viewing the end of an election very significant de-risking event. I think now that we are past this, we will start seeing some major moves up. I think the big question is what levels will we see before the end of the year? And how does this play out within 2025 with things like interest rate cuts and how inflation is going to be dealt with? There's still a lot of questions, and even more, a lot of questions on the front as it comes to regulatory alignment. I want to go to a clip real quick, and this clip is getting into a little detail that are we truly going to see highs quickly, or is this something that could last a little bit longer? Take a look.
You expect more new highs on Bitcoin?
I mean, new all-time high. Satoshi couldn't have written a better script, having it hit a new all-time high on the night of the election. And I think one of the most important things is we have the first Bitcoin president. President Trump ran on a campaign point that he was going to protect Bitcoin. He was going to create a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And I think that you saw Bitcoin's price kind of reflect having somebody who was so pro-Bitcoin win the White House.
It's it's not that recent, I guess, but so you think this is the real Donald Trump on Bitcoin that he's been for the last, how long, a year and a half?
I think that he's surrounded by enough people who really understand this. You know, people like Bitcoin Magazine CEO David Bailey, many others who have really spent the time with him. And one of the interesting things is whether he believes in Bitcoin or not is almost a moot point. Is what is he going to do? And if he's going to protect it and not be abrasive, that's a win. But if he also creates the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, I think that'll be a huge tailwind, and it'll kick off this global game theory, right? If the United States starts to lean in and welcome Bitcoin and say, hey, this is an asset that we want on our balance sheet, other countries are going to have to respond. And the interesting thing about Bitcoin is that it's been a bottoms-up adoption story. Individuals adopted it first. Now we see corporations and financial institutions. But the central banks are some of the biggest buyers of gold. Gold is up huge. And so if central banks start to buy Bitcoin and put it in their reserves, that would be a massive tailwind for Bitcoin.
Senator, and I would agree to that. There is one point I want to make on that, but Senator Lummis here kind of restating that very issue, and that is we're going to build a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Here's the thing, if we do see a full adoption of where Bitcoin is going, what I want to caution everyone on, especially here in the US, and for a lot of you administrators and policymakers that are probably watching our show right now, one of the things that we want to make sure of is that we're not losing out on blockchain as a whole. And I think that is a factor. Even if Bitcoin does get accepted by the US government and we start to see a very pro-crypto, I should say Bitcoin president, then it is possible that we're going to start to see other parts of the world really adopt these alternative measurements around blockchain. So keep an eye on that, because it could put the US still at odds with what's happening in Asia, the Middle East, MiCA within the EU, a lot there to point at. A couple other things I want to hit on right here. The regulatory headwind has turned into a tailwind. A couple of points here. This is coming in from Burstein. Points that I want to hit on. The market is nowhere close to factoring this shift in. I would somewhat agree with that. I think also analysts are predicting faster progress on stablecoin and market structure bills. We've got another video out coming to you guys today with Ron Hammond. You guys want to take a look at that, because it gets into a little bit of the strategy around stablecoins and what that could look like in terms of alignment here in the US. And then last up here, a couple of points there. Total crypto market cap breached 2.5 trillion as news of the election result became clear. I think this is just the beginning, and it's very possible we could see maybe a 3 to 4x. Now, many people have been talking about seeing an edge towards 6 to 8 trillion, and that is a possibility. Could it actually take place is the key here. Analysts warn that the market's initial reaction might be to sell, but Nobody's necessarily doing that. Reiterating the call for Bitcoin to move closer to 90 by end of year and reach a bull cycle target of somewhere around 200K by end of 2025. Let me know in the comments down below, just if you guys think we're going to see a 200K Bitcoin. Other things that happened today, of course, I bid another billion in volume in the first 20 minutes. That's about what it does in a full day. Other Bitcoin ETFs, same boat, crazy volume. Another record-breaking day on this. So again, Wall Street coming to the game, continue to play through here. It is definitely something that is flowing into the markets right now as we start to see Bitcoin really moving. Other assets we'll take a look at quickly. ETH is up. A handful of others that are up double digits to keep an eye on right here. But remember the last time we saw a volume spike during the rally, and that was Flowathon, which took in 1.8 billion over the next few days. So maybe we could see that again. That's a possibility. There's another clip I want to get into because this will get into more detail around some of the things on of Gensler, because everybody's been asking that question: is and will we really see a jettison into the markets if Gensler is supplanted? Take a look what Pompliano says.
Becky, we haven't talked about Gary Gensler in light of what's going on. Have
You
we?
mean that he's not going to have a job?
You tell me.
Of course he's not
No.
going to have a job.
We know who-
What do we need to talk about here?
We know who's not going to be SEC commissioner.
I can tell you who's not going to be the SEC commissioner. I
Mark
can tell you who's
Cuban.
not
Mark
going
Cuban.
to.
Who's
I can
not
tell you
gonna
who's not going to run the FTC. I can tell you who's not right. I can go through the list.
Yeah.
It's going to be a house cleaning,
You know what I
obviously.
mean. Mark Cuban is not going to be if he wanted to be at this point. You think Gensler's gone, and you think that would be good?
I think people expect whenever a new president comes in, they're going to, kind of play musical chairs with all the regulatory organizations. What I do think we are on the precipice of is a kind of an economic explosion.
I would agree there, economic explosion. It will take, I think the reality of Gensler stepping down, that in itself, even though it will be probably a sell the news event, maybe to a certain extent, Gensler is on his way out. Of course, he's already planning his exit, I think. He's got two events. One is going to be his participation in a fireside chat, and the other is his pink slip. So we'll see how that all plays out. But listen, all kidding aside, this will be good for crypto in general. It will be good for blockchain in the United States. Hopefully, we'll get away from this, regulation by enforcement strategy. And now that you have a very pro-crypto Congress, we could see a lot of work done. Doesn't necessarily mean that all of this is done. If you guys want to watch and see what some of the challenges are, check out my video with Ron Hammond, and you'll start to see what is going to be cooking here. Altcoins soaring as Trump leads in the election. We saw Dogecoin take a huge move last night. And I'll show you some charts on Dogecoin real quick. And SWI also took a massive move as well. Other things that are, of course, playing out within this, altcoins in general. Not sure how often I've showed this chart the last few months. It was really only a matter of time before USDT dominance breaks to the downside. Crypto is going to go up in the hard in coming months. So I think this is going to be the case that plays out quite a bit here. Also, Bitcoin is rallying with now Ethereum rallying. So is ETH finally getting its hook into a growth trend? And are we going to see it start to make some moves? Because it's up significantly, actually performing better than Bitcoin even today. Staking all-time high levels. This, of course, is a big deal. While we're starting to see a lot of ETH flowing off the exchanges, so we could see a little bit of a supply squeeze. I would agree with that. Staking, I think, is going to continue to flow. And now that people start to understand that there might be a future here for staking in the United States, that is a big opportunity going forward. So if you're kind of hedging against that, that's a good play to look at. Aave, Uniswap, other DeFi tokens also surging. Uniswap was up double digits. Aave was moving double digits. So a lot happening out there right now, surging 24 and up 30. Positive speculation around Aave's price, specifically because of its partnership with the World Liberty Financial Project. I don't necessarily think that's going to be a huge deal, but it's moving the token. We'll see how it goes forward, from here. Other things that are lining up real quickly, I think Matthew Siegel kind of hits on this. By the way, we've got him later in the week. Loading up on some crypto asset securities this morning. I love it. Might be last chance before they vanish, along with Gensler. These people just have no fear. They just go right at it. I love it. That's for sure. You've got a golden cross coming in with a 35% rally on Uniswap. Uniswap, of course, now kind of the uni chain. We're going to see a lot of activity, I think, with Uniswap. Hopefully, we'll start to see regulatory and these lawsuits subside, maybe, but a lot of that is going to take months to get going. So be watching after the first 100 days. The next moves by Trump and his administration are going to be pretty significant. Solana flips BNB to become the fourth crypto by market cap. Big deal right there. And I think this is good. And of course, Polymarket whales scored big on Trump ads. They were absolutely on fire. People were making in the double-digit millions. So you had one guy coming in with 20 million in profit, another guy with 11 million, 15.6 million. There was some money being made on Polymarket last night. Now remember, in the United States, it's Kalshi that made its way through the CFTC to get predictive market bets going. And I think this is just the beginning of what could be a new polling system in the future, especially with how bad the polls were last night. Most successful crypto app that's built on Polygon. Major win for Polygon. ETH, of course, also within it. Even though Pol is not doing great as a token, we'll see hopefully that turns around for Polygon in the future. Guess what's happening this week? Tomorrow, we're going to be doing a live stream. We'll be talking about this quite a bit, so make sure and tune in that live stream. If you're not subscribed to the show right now, do it. Go ahead and get subscribed because you're going to need to click that little bell, and that way it's going to give you a notification when we go live. And we're going to do it tomorrow during the FOMC. This is a big one because the quarter point is going to be significant going into this market rally, and whether or not we can also see if Chair Powell has enough on it to be able to get another quarter point in December, because there's a lot of people saying that we may see a hold in December. So this is going to get interesting very quickly. I want to go to this next clip. This is another clip on Pompliano talking about the biggest questions around monetary policy and what that might look like. Take a look.
One of the biggest questions I think that we're going to face as a country is how involved should the president and the executive branch be involved in monetary policy. Donald Trump has said that he thinks the president should be more involved. We obviously have had a situation where the central bank has been independent.
You think inflationary stuff and then saying we're going to keep rates going down, 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 interest rates going down, down, down is the right policy?
I don't think that you can keep rates going down if inflation is spiking. And so I think that's where you get a lot of complexity. And it's not as clear in terms of when inflation is spiking, what do you do to get it down?
And by the way, the bond market isn't paying attention to the Fed lowering rates at this point anyway, not on the long end, not even on the short end at this point. But the 10-year is all the way back up at 447. So there's only so much that any administration or any Federal Reserve can do.
Yeah, one of the things that's really interesting about policy is you kind of draw, the perfect playbook, right? You're like, hey, this is the theory of what could happen. But then that plan meets the real world. And so you can try to do all these things.
Mike Tyson, right? You can do all these things till somebody punches you in the face.
Yeah.
What if that person punching you in the face is the bond market?
And it's also a very complex system. So you say, hey, I'm going to go get home affordability down. Okay. Or you go and you do that. As soon as you do that, all of a sudden inflation spikes somewhere else. You got to go and you try to address that. Then asset prices crash, right? And so you're just constantly
incentivizing people to build more housing supply. That seems like the right way to go at it.
And one of the questions I think with housing supply is how much is the president and the national government able to do that versus is it local governments? One of the things that I say is for your investment portfolio, the Federal Reserve chairman is more important than the president. But for many Americans, actually, who's on their local city council may be more important than who's in the White House.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that in the sense that this is going to be a very dicey situation going into next year, mainly because of the fact that we may see inflation continuing to stick around, which will put some pressure on Powell. And again, this is going to be a very key FOMC meeting tomorrow because we'll get a little bit of the feeling of the governors and how they're looking at this. Other news that's coming in is the Global Dollar Network. This is an open network now accelerating a reward for a global stablecoin. This is coming in with a partnership through Galaxy Digital, Kraken, Robinhood, and Paxos, of course, all tying into this. A couple of points within this. If you look at those partners lined up right there, this is going to be a new stablecoin that essentially most likely will be available over on Robinhood and Kraken. So this in itself could be something to watch very closely. So if you guys want to learn more about that, just go over to the globaldollar.com and you can learn a little bit more about what they're up to. We'll be probably reporting on this a little bit more as we start to see this vet out, but there is going to be some unique strategies around that. I want to go to the charts real quick and take a quick look at Bitcoin as it's starting to hit almost 76K. Man, look at that green candle there, guys. Right now, definitely moving significantly ETH also on the move right now. Sentiment is still very positive on Bitcoin. We may see a little bit of a sideways move, but right now, very positive. ETH also, look at that. Beautiful God candle right there, breaking what could be 2,700 any moment now. I'm looking at ETH being very bullish right now coming out of this with money flow coming in. And of course, we've got a full stack of positive sentiment. Solana is also, after 2 days, now tracking in 187.88, set to really re-enter another order block right here. So this is another zone right here, all the way up to 200 that we're starting to enter for Solana. So those are the tokens that are really on the move. But there's a lot of others, even Chainlink up 10%. We saw Uniswap up almost 30% right here. And I think, again, this is all coming from what has happened in the election and really the potential opportunity for what blockchain and crypto could be doing here in the United States, which will set the stage for the globe. So there's a lot happening. We'll be bringing all of this to you this week. We've got continued coverage. I've got Eric Balchunas coming on. We'll talk about ETFs and what that future might look like. Matthew Siegel coming in from Van Eck, what that might look like, because there's a lot of strategy being played around that. And of course, the way to get all that stuff is subscribe right now. If you're not in the Diamond Circle, get into that as well. It's another great place to find additional content, and it's very easy to join. We always leave a link down below in the description. And of course, if you're not following me on X, do that. It's just @PaulBaron. Catch you next time right here on TechPath.